This Kendrick mixtape is weird, but excellent. This is first impressions. Again, doing album reviews in the first 2 days to me is insanity. I will be breaking down Man at the Garden in this video because Justin Hunt asked for it. If Doechie's album is an album disguised as a mixtape, this is a mixtape disguised as an album. King Green has got a video on this. The Heart Part 6 is on this tape. Kendrick always drops a Heart Part before a rollout. So for me, this being on this project, Kendrick has something on the way. I think Kendrick was gonna drop this the same time as the Untitled track. Remember when DJ Head said to stay on stream? I think it was for this, but Kendrick hadn't finished yet. Whacked Out Murals. Someone tagged Kendrick's mural, like graffiti tagged it, so he's talking about that. I personally think there's a bit of a Lupe Fiasco shot with the whole forget a double entendre stuff and the pyramid stuff. So yeah, I think this is because of that. Squabble Up is the broccoli snippet. This is all thanks to Jeremy Heck, to be honest. A couple bars on here where he's talking about stuff that are in the Not Like Us music video, like spit a loogie at the camera. If you remember, he did that in the snippet, and the whole driving around thing. He drove in a Ferrari with mustard in the video. This is kind of like Not Like Us Victory Lap edition. Luther is beautiful. Also, this is a good time to say, we were all so slow. SZA did the interview to the lead up to this album, and also she reposted that post that was like, oh, I can't wait for the new Kendrick album to drop soon. Of course she reposted it, because she knew she was on it. We're so slow. But yeah, Luther is beautiful, and I wouldn't expect any less from SZA. Alright, Man of the Garden breakdown. This is a response to Port Antonio, as far as I am concerned. The first verse for me is towards Cole. The second verse is towards Drake, and the third verse is for everyone. Okay, context. Port Antonio uses two beats. It uses the Cleo Soul sample, and it uses the Nas Dead President beat. The sample on that song, it's a Garden of Peace. Also, the instrumental is a Nas instrumental. Cole's whole approach to the Port Antonio thing was kind of like, oh, it's better to be a warrior in a garden than a gardener at war type energy, right? For me, this is Kendrick saying essentially what annoyed me about Cole's Port Antonio track, that you're not the warrior in the garden in this scenario. First of all, he says, lamping on an island, watching Castaway. If you remember, this is a quote from the Heart Part 4. What is the callback? It's Kendrick saying, lamping in Jamaica. Port Antonio is in Jamaica. This first verse, as far as I'm concerned, is for Cole. The other two things for me that point towards this is, one, he mentions Ibiza, which, why would Kendrick have any notion of mentioning Ibiza? The only two reasons is Drake, because he mentions that from rapping on his perspective on 616, which I'm gonna come to. And two, the last track of Might Delete Later is Trade the Truth in Ibiza, the song that's before 7 Minute Drill. And on that song, Cole's talking about flying commercial and like, oh, I'm not usually too bougie to fly commercial, but because again, the part that pissed me off was, oh, well, I could have won the beef if I wanted to, which is like such a cop-out. The other part that pissed me off was Cole being like, lines got crossed, perhaps regrettably. Kendrick has been crystal clear since the beginning of this beef. Like that, he said, that's okay with all these nines. He gonna see Pet Cemetery. I'm sorry, what part of that is perhaps regrettably? On this mixtape, he says, homie feels entitled because he knew me since a kid. I'll cut my granny off. Like, bro, this is why I said, Cole backing out was for his own benefit. Cole is projecting with the whole perhaps regrettably stuff. Kendrick does not regret it, which we'll get onto in the third verse. There's also another meaning that I'm gonna come back to. Then for me, the second verse is towards Drake. Like, even when my intentions were pure in the beef, this is this whole thing of the fourth verse of Meet the Grahams, right? Of like, I tried to be empathetic with you, essentially, right? I deserve it all. Waking up at 6 a.m. This is 6:16 in LA, is it not? 6:16 in LA is 6:16 in LA AM, not PM. He's essentially saying, I worked harder than you. The reason why I deserve the GOAT title isn't because of politics, isn't because of all of the other things that people are saying it is. I just outworked you. Same with Cole. Same with the next part, telling truth better than your next of kin. The whole narrative of the beef was Kendrick telling Drake, you lie, I'm gonna tell you the truth that you don't want to hear. That's the whole of Meet the Grahams, right? It's uncomfortable truths for Drake. Prayed for those who prayed against me. That's what he did in 616 in LA. He dropped a prayer about please don't let me smoke this, brother. And for me, that verse 3 is one, it's for hip hop, but it's also for both of them. He's essentially saying, like, for my family, for the West Coast, we deserve it all. Bro, this Port Antonio thing, I understand that Cole is well-intentioned. Like, I know he didn't mean to frame it that way, but if you're Kendrick and you just categorically body Drake and the biggest beef of all time, like, you're not going to appreciate Cole framing it as, oh, just like algorithm bots to sway the whole thing. Like, no, you just got bodied. You just got categorically bodied. You jumped out the window first, then retracted it, and then I bodied and won. Like, the part to me here that really plays into this is for Cole and Drake is more blood spilling. It's just paint to me. Because what did Cole say on Port Antonio? My friends went to war and I walked away with their blood on me. But what's Kendrick's response? More blood spilling. That's just paint to me, bro. To me, this is just, you're not built like that. And I don't think it's a diss. I just think it's Kendrick mocking his territory. What are we talking about? This is, one person said, I'd cut my granny off if that's what it takes. And the other person is trying to do kumbaya. Like, anyway. And so the ending of this song being like, tell me why you deserve the greatest of all time title. To me, this is just a great question. This is just a great question. I love this track. The other meaning that actually Justin brought to my attention was it being 3 different perspectives biblically, because man at the garden, that's the Garden of Eden. So that would place the first verse being like Adam in the Garden of Eden. The second verse being Jesus in the Garden of Gethsemane right before he's about to get betrayed. Hence why it's also a double of like, I'll tell truths that you don't want to tell. Like being awake early in the morning before anyone else. It's like in the Bible when all of the disciples were asleep. Like, so many biblical parallels. And then the third verse being like Jesus being sent to the cross. Then Reincarnated, I kind of called from the Kendrick snippet, if you remember my video. I'm gonna talk about this in another video. TV Off, he clearly wrote this for the Super Bowl, which is really clear from the end of the verse before the stupid chorus. Oh, walking New Orleans with the etiquette of LA yelling. If you're not with my type of activities, don't watch the Super Bowl, bro. And then the end of this verse is so many just like Super Bowl references, like plyometrics. It's a diabetic double entendre. Love Kendrick said that there's no entendres on this project. There's so many. I'm in the city with a flag be getting thrown, like pass interference, like passing in a football game. So the promo video with the flag behind him and he's at the 50-yard line. So many Super Bowl references. He's gonna perform this first of the Super Bowl. Dodger Blue, very chill. I like it a lot. Peekaboo, so weird. So Kendrick. The hey, 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 hey is so stupid, but so funny. And the boom, bam, 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 bam. The type of shit I'm on you wouldn't understand. But I'm not a rapper. It's just hilarious. This whole song just reminds me of Range Brothers. Like, just so unserious. But I think it's also in response to when that whole top 5 stuff was happening. Like, top 5 saying like, oh, we're gonna look at everyone in the Not Like Us video and we're gonna slide. Yeah, no, you're not. What are they talking about? They're talking about nothing. Heart Part 6, I'm so glad he released a Heart Part 6. The point of this track is him talking about breaking away from TDE to become his own entity. One comes with so much emotional baggage of him knowing, like, for example, that he started leveling up his pen because of Absol, that he felt he was the reason that Black Hippie didn't work out. Then GNX, this is the weirdest song on the album, both sonically and ethos-wise, because tell me why the producer said on Twitter, Kendrick got sent the beat 2 days before the mixtape came out. Like, what happened, bro? This is such a weird drop. But again, putting on for the West Coast. And Gloria is a great closer to this tape. He's talking about an old relationship that he used to have, and then on the conclusion of the song, he talks about how he's actually talking about his pen. He's talking about his pen personified. This is one of the hardest bars on the album. He says that the girl's favorite movie is The Notebook, which is just the smartest bar I have heard in a while. But obviously The Notebook is a movie with Leonardo DiCaprio, but if it's the pen, then its favorite movie is The Notebook. For someone who says that they don't care about double entendres, that's an incredibly clever bar. As a mixtape, it's incredibly strong. If we're considering it an album, I think it's too early to call right now. I'm leaning more towards Chromacopia. Yes, for the people who think I'm a Kendrick Glazer, I am leaning more towards Chromacopia. Tyler fully fleshed out the character on that record. Ironically, it's kind of more of a Kendrick album than this actual Kendrick album is. But I'm gonna have to see how this plays out because it's always too early to call. Take care and see you tomorrow.